Welcome to Criminal Justice Forum, where we discuss key issues in the criminal justice system that impact you and your family. Hi, I'm Jack Aernecke, and today I'm joined by Tina Standford, the chairwoman of the New York State Crime Victims Board. In 1966, New York State was only the second in the nation to establish an independent state agency to compensate victims of crime. Tina, thanks so much for being here with us today to talk about what you do.
You're welcome, Jack. It's my pleasure.
Tell me a little bit about the board. How many members does it have, and what are your responsibilities?
Well, the law has established that there should be 5 members of our board, and we are all appointed by the sitting governor. Then we have to go through a confirmation process with the Senate, and then if we are confirmed, we have a term of 7 years. And then the governor also has the authority to appoint a chairperson of the board. We sit in 3 different offices presently around the state. We've got an office in Brooklyn, an office in Buffalo, and an office in Albany. And from those various offices, we handle each and every claim that's accepted by our board. So, for example, there are 3 different kinds of claims: personal injury, death claims related to homicides, and essential personal property. So each of us every month takes in a certain number of claims. On average, typically I get in 10 new claims a day, and I think that's pretty typical for all the board members right now. But we're 1 board member down, so if we were up to 5, it might be a little bit less, but average about 10 claims a day. And it can be a personal injury claim, which involves a physical injury to a victim, or a death claim, which is a result of a homicide, usually by a family member, or in fact anyone can make that claim who has paid the funeral expenses. Or it could be essential personal property.
And when you say you get 10, that's you personally. So
yes.
you actually, well, as the chair, I would imagine you are the chair of a board of equals, and you're all in basic role, other than you being chair in basic role, you're all the same?
Yes. I have the authority to assign the claims, but I've chosen under my leadership to do the claims as well, and to take an equal number with the other board members as much as possible. But they're regional too. So, for example, right now we have 2 board members that work out of the New York office in Brooklyn, and they will get most of the cases that originate from the boroughs in and around New York, Manhattan. Then you have a board member that's in Buffalo, and she will get most of the Buffalo claims, and I take the claims that come from central New York, the Albany area primarily. And I think the thinking behind that is that we are in the best position to know what's going on in our communities.
Right.
Either by paying attention to the news, following the news of the day, so that if there's a case that's newsworthy, that we recognize it when we see it. But of course, all these crimes are serious crimes. All these crimes deserve equal attention. But if we find that works out a nice balance in terms of number of cases, because it takes more than 1 board member, as you can imagine, to handle the volume of cases from the metropolitan New York area.
I can well imagine that. And then when you take a case, do you research it, and then the final decision as to what to do is up to the 5 board members to collectively, or can you make a final decision on something?
The process is this. Our agency, for all the work we do, is a relatively small agency. We've got about 80 employees. Most of those employees are what we call crime victim specialists. And their job, once the claim has been received, we just went to a new computer system, so once the claim has been received, information input into the computer or file created, then it gets assigned to a crime victim specialist. That person then sets about collecting the documents that establish the basis for the validity of the claim. That would be the police report. If it's a claim for personal injury, they're going to get and seek the medical records, doctor's reports, if therapy is indicated, to establish causal relation to the crime that's asserted. They will collect all those documents. They will interface with the victim and or the victim assistance provider that's working in conjunction with the victim in making the claim. And once they gather all that information, they'll make a recommendation based on our laws that govern our practice and how we pay compensation claims. They'll make a recommendation to the board member, and then the board member reviews all that documentation, reviews the application, reviews the recommendation, and if he or she agrees with it, then they will issue an award. We can overrule, obviously, the recommendation of the investigator, but in many cases they're very well trained and they know what we're looking for, so they establish the foundation through their investigation for their recommendation. But we have ultimate discretion, and sometimes we do go in a different direction or seek more information that isn't already provided.
Okay, and I'm just curious because you did mention medical records and things like that with the new HIPAA regulations. Has that been an issue? When I sign a release, when I go to a doctor that says, yeah, you can share the information with the insurance company and things like that, does that automatically include you? No.
It does not.
What do you do? How do you deal with that baby?
Well, we've worked out a system. We have our own forms that we have the person making the claim fill out. And I have seen cases where a person has gone to 1 or 2 hospitals, a hospital, and 2 or 3 private doctors. For example, if there's a broken jaw or dental work, you might see 3 or 4 providers for one claim. Well, for each and every one of those providers, we have to get the person to sign a HIPAA form authorizing us to get those records. And then we have to send it, and then the provider has to send it back. So the time that it takes to process a claim in many instances is involving these processes, seeking the documentation, getting the signature on the HIPAA form, which then we can send to the provider. So we find that our processing time in many instances is full of these types of delays rather than the actual hands-on making the decision.
Yeah, that's got to be kind of the frustrating part of the job, I would imagine.
Yes, it is. But they have the right to confidentiality. And in fact, we have laws governing that we be confidential with that information as well. And we can't say yes or no if someone were to call in, even a provider, and ask us if this person is a claimant or not, without the claimant giving us authorization to do so.
Now, you mentioned a couple of areas where compensation, where awards can be given, death for funeral expenses and a couple of other things like that. What are some of the other broad areas where folks can seek and receive compensation?
Well, it really runs the gamut, and it depends on the crime, and it depends on the claimant, because certain claimants are eligible for one set of assistance and other claimants are eligible for others. Let me give you some examples. If you are 17 or under, 60 or older, or disabled, then you are eligible for essential personal property reimbursement. And that is anything that's fundamental to your health or well-being that you have lost or has been damaged as a result of a crime. And those claimants do not have to have a physical injury as well. Now, if you had a physical injury, then you are eligible for medical assistance. You are eligible for, if your injury results in long-term rehabilitation, home modifications, we will assist with that. For example, unfortunately, in today's times, we often see victims with debilitating gunshot wounds that may cause total or partial paralysis. Well, if you're talking about a young victim, all kinds of things need to be done to make their quality of life better. Home modifications in addition to medical assistance. So that's one example. But they are also entitled to the $500 maximum on essential personal property. So if their clothing was damaged in the course of the crime, or eyeglasses is one very common thing. Even damage to a vehicle. For, again, we will see these cases mostly with the over 60 disabled person. Say, for example, your car is vandalized and your tires are slashed. Well, we consider a vehicle essential personal property. So we will help you to repair those tires or replace those tires if your insurance doesn't cover it. Or if you have a deductible, we will help you with the deductible up to the $500 maximum.
Right. Because I would think with some of the damage that is on cars, even though it looks relatively minor, $500 is nothing for fixing a car these days. So at least you cover up to the deductible anyway. That most people.
And that is helpful. Nothing cosmetic, though. It has to be something essential to making that vehicle run.
Okay.
Nothing cosmetic.
All right.
But all kinds of other things. If you're a survivor of rape, we will cover the forensic rape examination. And there are a couple different ways that we would do that.